Welcome to Psych Sessions Careers, a podcast about how students can identify and prepare for careers that fit their unique interests and how instructors can help. I'm your host, Stacey Spencer. Whether you're a student trying to figure out what you'll do with your undergraduate psychology degree, an instructor who's looking to add to what you're already doing to support career preparation, or an instructor who wants to help but doesn't know where to start, these conversations are for you. Let's talk about careers. Hello, Natalie Ciarocco. How are you?
I'm good.
Thanks for joining me today. Before we get started, I'd like to do a little introduction of who you are so people know how fabulous you are, how important you are. You're at Monmouth University in New Jersey.
I am.
You're a professor and department advising coordinator. Is that?
I am.
What does that mean?
So in my department, at Monmouth University, our faculty do advising, which I know some places have centralized advising. We do not. We do for the first year, and then they move to the major sophomore through graduation. So it's just an extra layer of administrative stuff where I help with course scheduling, overrides, helping transfer students come in and figure out what courses to take based on what they've earned at other universities, things like that.
Mm-hmm. So is it more around, making sure the students are meeting the requirements, or is there additional mentoring going in that role?
Well, in that particular role, it's not a lot of mentoring, although our department's philosophy about advising is that the university would call us academic advisors, but we tend to use the term academic mentors. Mm-hmm. And we try to remind them of that we're not just here for course planning. Mm-hmm. We're here to help them figure out professional development, figure out what they don't know. We're often encouraging them to come talk to us about those things as well. Preparation for grad school, preparation for whatever's next after they leave Monmouth.
All right. So you have that at the individual mentoring level, right? We'll come to sort of the bigger picture department in a minute. I want to finish with some things about you. You have a master's and PhD in social psychology, and you earned those at Case Western Reserve.
Yes.
Excellent. You're an associate editor for the Teaching of Psychology.
I'm not currently. I was up until January.
All right.
Yes, I finished my term. I did a term as an associate editor for Teaching of Psychology.
Are you doing other editing things right now?
I am not.
All right.
I'm not. I'm taking a break from all of that for a little bit.
Okay, good. All right. So one of the things that I think is important that people know about you is that you have developed with Dave Strohmetz the Employable Skills Self-Efficacy Survey. And that's been published in the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning in Psychology. And you also provide access to that survey on your website. Can you tell me about the development of that survey, the inspiration for it, what it looks like, how you use it?
I think the inspiration, trying to think back. Where did it all start? I think the inspiration for it really is that I just really believe skill development is the key thing we're giving to majors before they go on to what's next. We all know that psychology major, the perception is you can't do anything with it. We all know it's really because they have so many options. There's so few things they can't do next. They're not pigeonholed, but it also leaves too many things up in the air. And I really, probably from a bias that I teach research methods the most, and I feel like it's a very skill-driven class. And then to watch how easy it is to access information. I mean, I know it's not always good information to teach them good information from bad, but it's so easy to get your hands on good information. I started to move away from, really memorizing content. So how much content do they really have? And how quickly does our knowledge change? And so what do they really need to leave with? Because most jobs are going to teach them whatever they need to know, as long as they learn how to be a learner, right? Or an open to growth. So what skills are we giving them? And we thought we were giving them skills, like we like to say we were, but there wasn't a lot out there to really try to assess whether it was working or not. Are we really developing the skills we thought we were? So we looked at some key skills. I believe they honestly came from Appleby originally.
Oh, okay.
some work he had done on advising skills and giving some recommendations about how to help build skills. And so we decided to try to develop an assessment of that and did the work to finalize questions, get rid of the bad, all the stuff you do to build a survey. And then we're able to get that published. And then from there, we had the idea of making it more accessible, because a journal article somewhere is not really going to help students a whole lot. You kind of have to be in that teaching and learning community and be searching for these things to find them. So we got some grant money and initially developed the Employable Skills website. It's called employableskills.com. Yeah. It could be used, to assess any major, but we had focused on skills we thought in particular the psychology major would give students. So others can definitely use it, but you can take the assessment and get your scores right then and there. And then from there, you get advice about how to build skills or how to keep your skills sharp. And you basically get a level for each skill, which there's communication skills. There's a couple of subscales within that. There's analytical inquiry skills, again, with a few subscales, collaboration, and then professional development. Those are the four main areas, although they all have subscales. So it will give students a rating, and it takes the data that's already there from others and is constantly updating itself to let you know, are you high, moderate, or sort of low compared to your peers on this? And then from there, it'll give you some advice.
So how is the question phrased? What are they specifically responding to? So I know the skills that are listed, what are they saying about those skills? Is it a confidence? Am I saying,
yes,
I have,
Yeah. So the caveat to that, it's all based on their own self-efficacy, right? So it's not an actual assessment of how great of a writer are. It's asking them questions to get at, how confident they feel they are as a writer, and trying to get at that with multiple questions to see where they really fall. So it really is all about their own opinions and skills, which may not be right. They may be overconfident or underestimate themselves, as the case may be. I actually, in one of my classes, have students fill it out and kind of talk about their scores. And if it feels, what they thought it was, if they were surprised by anything, as well as developing a plan for their weaker skills. And occasionally students are sort of surprised that compared to their peers, they're more confident than they thought. Or occasionally they're surprised that they got a lower score than they thought. But generally, they'll say it pretty matches what they thought. They knew they struggled with this and they were good at that. As the case may be.
Yeah, I think that self-assessment of skill development is really essential. So the first level is, hey, did you know these skills are valuable and you really do need these to succeed in the workforce? Now, where do you see yourself? And now let's use that for planning. And I'll say to students, those ones you're not so confident in, well, stop avoiding the courses that require you to use those skills. So if you're you don't like group work, or you're, think you always have bad experiences, or whatever it might be, you can't avoid it because it's going to be so essential. So those not so great teamwork experiences are really great opportunities for trying new things and working that out. And maybe you take social psych before you do another course with group work so that you can learn those principles of how groups work effectively. So that planning part is really important. And I can imagine then students can reassess later. They can go back and look.
Yeah, which first of all, I'm absolutely with you. Students want to avoid what they're already not good at. So we have discussions about that, pushing them. Public speaking is another one, where it's like they need to take more speech classes if they're, not confident in that, but you really have to sort of push them on those things. We did initially just have the website be an assessment. They would get their score. They would get some feedback about what they could do to improve it. We then got another grant later down the line to expand it more, where people could set up user accounts and they could go in and assess initially, and then maybe again in a year, or maybe as a first year student and then a senior, and see how they've grown. And it'll keep track of their progress and actually give them a report about how things are changing. We also made it available for data collection, essentially. So people can contact us and we can set them up with an account where they can get students with an ID code can go in and take the assessment, and they can keep track of their own students. So departments could use it as an assessment, for the curricular development. or a course, if you just want to see in your course how they've changed from beginning to end, or even a particular activity, like there's something you're doing in the course and you want to do a pre-post assessment, you can do that all online and then download that data for yourself as well.
So that's phenomenal. So instructors who are listening can think of multiple ways that they could incorporate that in their courses, or if they're part of the assessment for the department for the program. And then students don't need a professor to tell them to do this. You can go right to your website and go in, create that ID, and start tracking your progress. So tell me one more time the name of the website.
Employable Skills, all one word.com.
Excellent. All right. Now let's talk about your university and your department. So how large is the undergraduate enrollment at your university?
We have about 300 majors.
Okay.
We're you technically call it mid-size level art school on the East Coast. So I think there's about 8,000 undergraduates. I'm not good with that sort of thing.
You know how big your major is. That is the number that we all know because, there's so much that goes with that number. Great. So tell me a little bit about the students who go to your university and major in psychology. How would you describe them in terms of their characteristics?
We are a very traditional campus. So we have a lot of students that are coming to us straight out of out of high school. Sorry, they're coming right out of high school. So they're very traditional, the 18 to 23-year-old crew. Like most campuses, mostly women, especially in the major, but more diverse every year, which has been a joy to see over the 15 or 16 years I've been there. So we're getting more cultural and ethnic diversity to move along, which is good to see. We are, a fairly expensive private school. So, lots of students are on financial aid, but there's a good chunk that also are not. And so we have a lot of diversity in their economic backgrounds, I would say. Yes, I don't know if that gave you.
Yeah, no, that's a really good description. Because it helps kind of put everything else into perspective. The things that you're doing fit very broad range of students in terms of their background, and that you do have the diversity in your program. Go ahead.
And it is a little different. Like I think you're planning to talk to David Strohmetz, right? And he is at a university where I think he's got a lot of people that are returning students. And so they're already out working professionally and now they're trying to earn a degree. You're the exact opposite. I'm actually shocked in teaching our career development course, one of the things we do is resumes. And, I'll see that a lot of students have there's a subset that have no work experience, maybe a junior in college, and they've actually never had a job. And now our school requires an internship at some point. So they at least have that once they graduate. But, I think he's the exact opposite. They have lots of work experience. They're coming back to academia. They've been in school for so long, they actually may not have any real work experience. That's more of our challenge. Yeah.
I can see that in terms of resume building. And sometimes that's demoralizing for students. But I don't have anything to say. So those conversations are really important for them. You do have things to say, just how can we do that? And what can you do now that will make it onto a resume? It doesn't, if a paying job isn't a necessity or even a preference for you, what are some of the other things that you can do that you can get on that resume?
Absolutely.
So what kinds of careers are the students saying they're interested in, maybe before they even know much about what you can do with the psych degree? Are they
the typical, right? Yeah. They're going to be clinical psychologists or therapists, mental health counselors, and some of them stick with that, but it's because it's all they know. That's the general starting point always. We do actually have a sort of a strong animal program here. We have an affiliation with a safari that's nearby. And so occasionally we do get students that come because they want to do animal training and animal behavior type stuff. And so we have a small subset that actually seek us out for those opportunities, but I think that's unusual because it's a special opportunity that we provide. But yeah, it's the general therapy kind of route.
after they graduate, are you hearing back the kinds of things that they're doing? Or when they're getting ready to graduate and they've made some decisions about the direction they'll go, what kinds of differences do you see in what they're pursuing from when they started?
Yeah, I mean, I do think we try to open their eyes to all the stuff they can do without graduate school or with graduate school, as the case may be. I think the trend I'm seeing right now with students is a lot want to do either school counseling or school psychology, which even getting them to understand the difference between those two things is difficult because they kind of get all wrapped up to them. So I would say those are the main two. I see students that still want to do things like HR. We have a subset that will do market research kind of stuff, or interested in IO psychology. A lot early on, not a lot, but we'll have a subset that are interested in forensic psychology, which is always the toughest for me because I feel like it's so many things and also very hard to nail down exactly what you're going to do or what training you should have and all that. And so some of them do try to still stick with that by the end, but most kind of, I feel like it kind of goes away. It's one of those ones they come in with a lot of misconceptions of I'm going to be an FBI profiler kind of thing from the mass media and TV and stuff. And so I think they have realized.
And they call that a forensic psychologist. And so for us in the discipline, we know that it's a clinical doctoral program, and they'll spend a lot of time doing things that are very different from what they've seen on TV. Okay, so you have a large major, many students. What is the structure? How is your department built to provide the career exploration and professional development pieces into the program?
Yeah, so I've been lucky that we have a very supportive department who's all in on this. And so some point in our past, we were doing a department assessment and realized students wanted more on professional development. Now, let me caveat this by saying, I feel like no matter how much you give them, they always are going to say they want more. That's what I, no matter, we put in a lot of different things, but they're still unsure about their future. Of course they are, they're nervous. We often are asking them as they're graduating seniors or sometime in their senior year to reflect on what they've learned as a major or what could be improved. And that's when they're, worried about what they're doing professionally. So we have some efforts as a full department. So we added a 1 credit career preparation class, which I tend to teach to the curriculum. I've created what I called career snapshots, is like an advising tool that I'll update and keep going and changes as students come in and ask us for other careers that maybe we don't have a snapshot for. They let me know and we do that. So it gives you some basic information about careers that the faculty can pull out because of course we can't be experts in all these different careers all the time, right? So it's just an advising resource, essentially, that is sort of in-house. But then we developed these, what we call career modules, that we placed in our curriculum in 3 different places in courses that were required for students. So we knew we would hit every major. They don't have to take the career prep course. Right. It's not a requirement. It's just an elective, a 1 credit elective. So this gave us an opportunity to make sure we were hitting the majors and hitting them all, even though they'll say you didn't get any career development, they at least got a little bit in these career modules. And we tried on purpose to develop them so they were user-friendly, so we didn't get stumped on anyone's academic freedom. They could just assign it if they wanted, or they could spend class time on it. We wanted to make it as flexible as possible. So we have one that's in the sophomore-ish level, and then one in the junior, one in the senior level. So we're trying to get them at 3 developmental stages, again, in major courses. And it's a lot of different faculty that are, between those courses that are dealing with it. So each of them has some information to it. Like I said, they can stand alone, or the faculty member can sort of supplement it. I tend to do like a day in class where we're talking about it too. And then there's a bunch of activities in it as well. So it's not just spitting information out at them, but they also have to engage in the information a little bit with that. The first level is more of an introduction to the major, opportunities the major gives, a little bit about applied experiences they could have. whether that's actually internship or volunteering or whatever, to try to start that process. It introduces them a little bit to the idea of GREs. Students don't generally know that yet. They set up some goals for themselves in that one. There's a section on misconceptions of what it means to be a psych major. Be super easy. You're never going to do math, that kind of stuff. Which is a general introduction at that level. The second module, which hits them around the junior year, does some misconceptions about jobs and a little bit about misconceptions about grad school and applying to graduate school. It has them reflect on whether they want like a job, a career, or a calling, and like what are the differences? What do you actually want for yourself? It has some stuff on what you can do with a BA in psych. It talks about pathways. It's not super specific, but you can go these different paths. It starts to then focus on them reflecting on their skills. So it's a section that at least hits what I call the 3 C's, right? Collaboration, critical thinking, and communication. And it has them start thinking about not even psych classes, but just classes you've taken so far. What are these skills? What have you done to help you build these skills, and start matching specifics to the skills? Because right, they will work so hard to do whatever we ask them to do and to get the assignments done well for the most part, right? But they don't really go, oh yeah, I'm practicing my written communication right now. And then, oh, this is my critical thinking, right? So they don't make those links. And they don't know that we've designed, they don't know that we've designed assignments or the whole course to build these things. I mean, it might be on a syllabus, we might say it, but it's not in their day-to-day, right?
No, that's not how they approach the course. Exactly.
Right. So unfortunately, I work really hard to try to do those connections. Even in my own classes, outside of the career stuff, I tend to put the skills we're working on at the top of every assignment, just as a constant reminder. I don't know how well it gets through, to be honest, but I feel like it can't. But every time I'm like, okay, you're going to work in teams on this. So this is your collaboration skills. And like, it's a constant background. It also talks a bit at this level about resumes a little bit, and about graduate school and what it is, if you should go, how do you make a decision, and trying to iterate that they should figure out perhaps what career they want and then backtrack as opposed to the other way around, right?
Yes.
Graduate degree and this thing, I don't know what I'm going to do with it later, but do I need it? They just assume they do. And maybe they don't based on what they want to do.
Yeah.
The last module, which is at the senior level, is a lot more about marketing themselves and their skills. So our students do a thesis to graduate, which I know is not typical, but every student does a research thesis. So they spend some time on how do you market that? How do you put it on the resume? We work on elevator pitches of the project. In 2 ways, actually. One is like, if they're going to do something research oriented, being able to describe the research project, but also just what did I get out of the thesis? What did I learn? Right. That kind of thing. So there's like a second version that's more for a job position that doesn't involve research. What did I actually get out of this? We can talk about it. We talk about them again, using we require an internship. So we spend some time with them about how to market that as well. We introduce them to a CV in this one, just in case they need it, but they generally don't.
Yeah. I think that's really tough. We think a resume is tough if they haven't had work experience, but a CV just has more categories they can't fill in. Yeah.
Because it does. It stresses them out. Occasionally, I mean, most graduate schools will let them submit a resume even. They don't really need a CV, but we throw it out there just like so they know who uses it and why. If they want to do something abroad, we want them to know.
Yes.
It might be something they encounter. We also have a section on basic questions in an interview. So it has an idea about that. And it talks a little bit about, how you should dress, and nonverbals and things like that in interviewing situations. And then a portion of it is on managing their online reputations.
Nice. Yeah, it's very important.
And part of the activities for that is Google searching themselves, Google image searching themselves, figuring out which accounts they've had since they were 12 that might have stuff on them still that they forget is out there. And so it kind of goes through all these accounts they might have and things that they should look into and see what's still out there to find them. But also having a professional footprint, because people are going to be looking for that as well. Right. So you do need the LinkedIn or something professional for them to find, because it's also strange to not have anything find you at all. So all that's part of that last module.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned LinkedIn. I have my students create LinkedIn accounts. I give them the opportunity. Someone came to me and said, I cannot be out in the world that way. Yes. And I said, okay, you can, for our purposes, kind of create something for me that's just for me. And this was a safety thing for the student. So I make it clear to them. The other thing people will do is if they're it's a work in progress and they don't want the world to see it yet, it's the name they attach to it may not be their full name. So you can have a LinkedIn account. Apparently, and just so I say, if you're not really comfortable saying, okay, I'm out there now and I'm connecting with people, but I don't feel like I'm ready yet. We talk a lot about, are you going to connect or not connect yet as you're building what that profile looks like for you? But for them to be aware, when my students graduate, I tell them that is the way I communicate with you. Email addresses don't make sense after you graduate. Right. And so it's much easier. And I invite students into I have a very similar set of courses that align with your modules, but mine are 1 credit career courses. And because I have a small enough major, we can actually do it that way. If it went to scale, I love this idea that the modules are built, the faculty who are teaching at that level are connecting that content to a required course. Brilliant, brilliant. Love that. But one of the things I built in is having alumni panels every class, not every class meeting, every course. So I'll have 4 panels a semester. Wow. And so maybe 16 graduates come and talk about what they do. And it's the most powerful thing that I've found. And back to LinkedIn, I say to them, if you guys are interested in doing that, I will need to be connected with you when you graduate so I can ask you. And you're all going to have good stories, even if you feel like in the beginning, you don't sound like it's good yet. You're still in that phase of development as a, newly graduated undergraduate. So yeah, really great things. And, people will ask me, the people who have a 1 course career or intro to the major course, we'll talk a lot about, well, where do we put it? And, by building it in along the way, it's an iterative process that even though you're very specific in your goals for each one, that reflection, what comes into that at every step is very different as they're taking more and more courses in psychology, out of psychology. They're discovering what they like. They're discovering what they don't like. Really, really valuable.
Yes, one of my toughest things with the actual 1 credit career prep class is when in the curriculum to encourage them to take it. They need career exploration to kind of know what's out there so they can get the best opportunities to prepare them for that early on, right? But then they're overwhelmed by doing a resume because they have very little experience, right? And then the older students, in the curriculum, like the senior level students are like, oh, I didn't know about these opportunities, but they have these, decent resumes and it's not as stressful to do all that part for them. I can't figure it out. Yep. And that's why, the modules going in at different places where they all developmentally in the curriculum is a much better fit.
And I think we're similar in that the career exploration part is really important for them, but it's impossible to tell them everything you could possibly do. So you have these snapshots of things you can do, and it's constantly growing. If it grows too large, it's overwhelming for them to navigate potentially. One of the things I build in is you need to find 3 occupations of interest and compare them. And I give them the things I want to compare them on. Because the other thing I'm guessing you get is the singularly focused students who won't deviate from, no, I'm going to be a blank. And you are like, well, you might not end up with that. And are you sure that's the best fit? So really working on things that help them discover best fit. And a lot of it is, well, what are the skills you enjoy?
Right.
More than others. There are things we like doing more than others. So really discovering who you are as an individual. So do you have a favorite assignment that you give in a course that is sort of career exploration, professional development like that a listener could take into a course or maybe a student could do on their own if they don't have a professor who has a course with the assignment?
I mean, I know we touched on LinkedIn. I do think it is becoming super important for students to leave college with a LinkedIn. Because I've had so many students come back to me and say, I didn't really want to do that when I was in your class. And now this is how I got a job. So I'm so glad you had me do this LinkedIn, so that's the best outcome, right? And so I've realized how important it is. And most of the content they can fill in, but even just some feedback about the pictures they're using or a discussion about what kind of pictures you should use somewhere along the line is helpful. So I do think the LinkedIn is important. But as far as career exploration, I don't know that it's that, novel, but I have a list of careers that I will update and change based on, as trends change and students are coming to us with different ideas about what they want to do. But I randomly assign students a career, which for those singularly focused people who know what they want to be, they don't like having to research some other career that wasn't the one they wanted, but they get over it. And then I have them, find out certain information about it. A lot of it, a good resource is ONET. Aware of it, but onet.gov.
ONET online. I think it's because when I'm writing it out, I think it's one T online in my head. So
yes. Okay. ONET online. Yeah. I mean, it's a great resource that students have, even if they're not in a class or, they can find out so much information on that. So, they get this assigned career, they eventually do a presentation. And then instead of doing a paper with it, I actually have them fill out more like a spreadsheet of information. Because I put it together and use it as a resource in our department. I'll just have it, either posted online or we can just have it literally in a book while they're sitting, waiting to visit a professor's office hours. And they're sitting in our little department lobby area. They can go through this book and see these different careers kind of all put together. But they talk about what it is really, in their own words, what does this person actually do?
Yes.
A little bit about the entry level education and whether there's licensure. And then if it needs graduate school, I have them look for fairly local, if they can, places to earn that graduate degree. They have to figure out the day-to-day duties, the typical setting, hospital, school, office, where are they working? Basic knowledge they need, skills. They actually are supposed to try to figure out the projected growth of the career, the salary range, which is always surprising to them. To have lots of conversations about that. They include some sources, things as well. So they give a presentation on that. And I've done that both asynchronously and in person. I've done this class both ways. We either record them or give them live. And then as audience members or class participants, I also have a spreadsheet that matches the careers with kind of a Likert scale where they rate it, they take notes on it. And then in the end, they have to do a reflection about, which careers do they absolutely eliminate and why? Why don't they like that career? Is it because they don't want to work with kids or because they don't like the salary or they don't want to go to graduate school? Because all those things are important, right? When deciding. And then things that they have now are kind of on their short list. Or, and a lot of times they'll say, I didn't know ABA therapy existed. I didn't know what a child life specialist was. I didn't know that was a thing. And so then those people that were really set in their careers, right, they knew what they wanted to do, were kind of like, oh, all right, maybe there are some other things I can do here and at least investigate.
Right. I love that you have them think both ways about what is a no for you. And why? It's such an important part of the process instead of the confirmation bias of yes, yes, yes. I keep exploring the thing I want and I'm looking for that to be the true fit for me. You're actually having to think about it in relation to these other occupations you're hearing about, but also specifically about different occupations. Why would you dismiss that? What appeals to you about it? Now, you mentioned child life specialist. It's unfortunate it's still not showing up in ONET.
It's not still.
I don't think it's there. I think I checked last fall, but it's so disappointing. It's such an incredible career path. If we had the time, I'd go on and on about what it is for people, but it's just an incredible opportunity that is helping a lot of people in a wonderful and important way. But there's occupational titles, and ONET is about occupational titles more than the reality of the job titles. So if you're up for it. I'd like to play a little game. I'm playing a game with everyone I converse with. What I've done is I found 4 jobs in your area, your regional area, and they are all bachelor's level jobs.
Okay.
I'm going to give you the job title, and you're going to guess what that person does.
All right.
Now, one of the points of this is job titles and occupational titles are very different. And sometimes they can be very specific to the employer, so much so that nobody could guess what it means. So if you're searching for jobs in a job search engine, there are many out there, you can't be specific in your keyword search because you may lose some really cool opportunities. The other thing is there's some very vague words that could mean the title could mean one thing in one arena and another thing in another arena. All right.
Well, I also warn my students, maybe not so much about job titles. We have to work on this, I think. But skills.
Yes.
We'll talk about having, needing to update the resume per the job you're applying for and making sure it matches, because you call it collaboration and someone else calls it teamwork. You're not going to get the right hits on the search engine for them to move your application on. So you can't just be generic about your resumes. You need to use the right jargon.
Yes. I am smiling, shaking my head. If my students were listening right now to this conversation, or if they listen to the recording, they say, Dr. Spencer says that all the time. It's you need to tweak it. And this is basic thinking of the analytics used. If we're going to screen resumes electronically without eyes, we don't want that system to have to interpret. Yes, it's going to know this is like that. There are some clusters of words that they know that they're accepting, but don't rely on that. You want to make sure that you're using the words that they've used. If it's teamwork, say teamwork. If it's collaboration, say collaboration. All right. So job number 1, acute care family support specialist - psych screening.
Acute care. Tell me again. Acute care. Family.
It's very long. Acute care family support specialist psych screening.
I would have thought maybe that the start of crisis intervention for a family, but I'm not sure.
Excellent. On-site support to the family while their loved one is being assessed in the emergency screening unit.
Oh, okay.
So interestingly enough, we refer to the child life specialist. One great thing about child life specialists is they support families and siblings. It's not just the parents, but siblings when a child is in a hospital setting and they're receiving treatment or some evaluation. So this is a lot like what a child life specialist might do. The focus here is really on supporting the family. They provide education to the family on the screening process. They execute linkage to existing family support resources in the community, responsible for follow-up to families and maintenance of statistical data reports related to family services. I always love that line that talks about the importance of data.
Data, yes.
So, all right. Okay. You did very well. I'm wondering if you know this one, because my student had to teach me this one. Psychometrist.
A psychometrist?
Psychometrist.
I don't know. I don't know. Is that like giving out a battery of psychological assessments?
You are really good at this game. Yes. All right. So here we go. I love the hype in the job description. As a psychometrist, you'll play a vital role in administering standardized tests to aid in the evaluation, diagnosis, and treatment of patients. If you have a passion for mental health, strong assessment skills, and a desire to make a positive impact, we invite you to apply for this exciting opportunity. It's a really, really great position and pays well.
Wow,
this pays, it says, from $40 an hour.
Okay. With an undergraduate degree. Right.
Yep, with an undergraduate degree. You conduct comprehensive psychological assessments using standardized tests and assessment tools under the supervision of a licensed psychologist. So you're going to be working with licensed psychologists, which if mental health or cognitive functioning, those things are interesting to you, phenomenal. Administer and score tests accurately and efficiently, ensuring adherence to standardized protocols and guidelines. I'm already thinking of the things that undergraduates do that align with demonstrating they're ready for this job.
Yeah.
Right. So a student who's worked in a research lab has had to follow protocols.
Right.
They've had to follow standardized procedures and guidelines. Collaborate with the clinical team to gather relevant patient information, including case history, behavioral observations, and collateral reports. I could go on, but I think that's enough to make the point. What a great job, a psychometrist.
I need to add that. I'm going to add that as one of my careers that they can be randomly assigned.
I can send you the link to the job. All right. Now, this one I love. Research coordinator.
Oh, geez. Okay. I guess it could be a higher up position, kind of coordinating for a grant or something, all the different studies that are going on. But I also could see it just being in a single lab too, just to kind of keep track of all the things that need to be done, and sort of project manager type position.
I assumed that as well. This is actually a research coordinator for a marketing agency. Yes. Yay. So for people who said, well, I don't want to do research to collect new information, generate new knowledge, test theories. I'm not really into that. I don't mind the data collection and analysis. This is a really great avenue. I think marketing is a wonderful direction. And I think you mentioned that some of your students end up going in that direction. So the primary duty of this position is working via online and telephone resources to generate sales lead information, which is interesting because that doesn't sound like a research coordinator, but it's identifying opportunities within specified market or region. So it's collecting information about those things. Assistance is also required in the development, implementation, and analysis of marketing campaigns. Development of appropriate databases, resources, and lists for the marketing and sales team are also required.
And it probably pays decently because it's corporate America.
Exactly. And I'm looking for, can I find the salary information? It's not here.
It's not there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the students are kind of surprised at how little the helping professions actually earn compared to the corporate type positions, which is something they need to know.
Yeah. And there are positions where you can help people, but it's not going to be in that clinical way. So if you expand your definition of helping, really great opportunities out there.
Absolutely.
All right. Here's another one. You notice research and data make me think of you. So this one is data analyst. What do you think their responsibilities are?
I don't know. Answering whatever question somebody has using the data.
Very good. You're getting savvy, right? The data, this I think is very obvious for most of us. The data analyst 1, okay, so it's got a level 1, is responsible for assisting with all efforts associated with data collection, analysis, evaluation, and dissemination. Assists the manager of evaluation. It's trying to look here. What other things? Measuring the outcomes and indicators that will be used to assess project design. What's key to this, I think, is important. If I were an undergraduate and I heard this description, I'd think, oh, I could never do that. But if you notice the word assisting. So they're looking for somebody who has some understanding of data analysis. They're not the primary responsible person. And they're going to learn a lot through that process. But if you have an interest in data and statistics at all, here is a great opportunity to build on that and not have to have a graduate degree to do so.
Can I ask a question about the positions? Did any of them say a particular major was needed?
No. I love that you asked that question.
I doubted that they did, but I wanted to make sure.
They didn't. And actually, I should probably go back and check for the family support specialist, because that one may have, usually what they do in those.
But they probably all list skills.
All it says, no, it just says bachelor's degree preferred.
All right.
That's it.
But and they probably have skills they want though, right?
Oh, absolutely. Run through your 3 C's.
Right.
If I were to go through each of these, the cognitive pieces are problem solving. The communication is there's some kind of writing or communicating with the team. The collaboration is in there. Almost all of them, there's that collaborative piece. The other thing I see a lot in job descriptions that students should be aware of is employers have voiced a concern over integrity, initiative, and they say that we want people who will be able to take initiative, be able to work independently and with a team. And they have integrity, that they care about doing right by themselves, by the client, if there's a client, by the employer. So,
yeah, that is very important.
Time management is often in job descriptions. Yes. Time management doesn't end as a challenge when you are done with school. Time management is part of every job. Self-starter, you might see it that way. So great question about the skills. I wouldn't pick anything that a psych major wouldn't be prepared for, no matter where they get their degree. Students have the skills for any of these, but they can sound intimidating, and students should know you're not expected to show up the expert. You're expected to show up with the potential to be a really good person for that position, that you come with enough for them to build on and for you to build on in that position. So you did very, very well. I don't think I would have been able to do quite as well. I had the luxury of seeing the full descriptions. Well, thank you, Natalie. This was fun. I really enjoyed this conversation. You have so many wonderful things your department is doing. I just want to reiterate that if you're an instructor listening, nobody who's spent a lot of time in this would expect an instructor to jump in full in and try to offer everything that you and I have talked about in terms of modules and career courses, but to really think about ways that you can bring into your content courses some experiences that are career focused, that are allowing students the opportunity to think, reflect, discuss, share, and to learn from each other, because someone might have a really cool career in mind that other people just never heard of before, and they'll benefit from that conversation.
Absolutely.
Anything else you'd like to add before we say goodbye?
No, just a big, as you can tell, big advocate for not only developing the skills of students, but helping them see that they have these skills and giving them the confidence to actually market them when they need to. It's not, I just don't think it's going to happen for most students on their own. They need us to help them connect the dots.
Absolutely. Build that bridge for them and give them the confidence in articulating. Back to, I use the word explicit a lot. Make it explicit for them so they can be explicit when they're discussing what they have to offer with others. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great afternoon.